Hi, I'm Bruce Baker. I'm a professor in the Graduate School of Education at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Prior to my current position, I was a professor at the University of Kansas for about 11 years, and that was, after finishing my doctoral work at Columbia at Teachers College in New York City, where I had studied how public schools are funded in the United States. I've spent over 20 years on this now, where I've worked both in academic studies of the equity and adequacy and fairness of funding of schools in U.S. states, and writing books and articles and academic research. But I've also done a fair amount of work as an expert witness, testifying in state court cases on the adequacy of school funding. And really trying to get out there and make a difference. I have also worked to create a series of national reports, including the School Finance Indicators data system that I work on with Matt DiCarlo of the Shanker Institute, and my former graduate students Mark Weber and current graduate student AJ Srikanth. Just trying to come up with better ways to measure and characterize how fair, how adequate, how equitable state school funding systems are. And the kind of the frustrating, answer to all that is, not as fair, not as adequate as they should be, and not necessarily moving in the right direction over the last 10 years. So in the past few years, I've put out a couple of books. One was just a general book on educational inequality in school finance, which really was a summary of several years of work leading up to that, trying to kind of debunk some of the myths and lay out some of the realities of what we know in school funding. And there are a couple of really important ones there. One is that money actually does matter for the quality of schools, that you have to have enough money to hire enough teachers and pay them well enough to get the job done. Running good schools is human resource intensive, and we really don't have any simple substitutes for that with computers or technology or distance. It takes money to get the job done, to hire enough people, to pay them well enough to run a good school. And another kind of core truth in education finance is that if you want to set higher goals and achieve higher outcomes, it actually costs more to get more done than to get less done. We have had a tendency in the United States over the last few decades to try to ask more and more of schools without considering that schools are going to need more to accomplish more. And really a third truth that has to be built into this conversation is it takes more to get even the same job done in some places than others. It takes more to serve students from intergenerational impoverished backgrounds, or in schools and districts with concentrated poverty. We've got to infuse resources to put more people on the ground, more hands on deck, to get the more difficult job done of accomplishing the same outcomes under more difficult circumstances. So it takes more to get the same thing done in some settings than others. It takes more money to achieve higher outcomes than to achieve lower outcomes. And just in general, money matters for schools. And those are core themes of my first book from 2018. Well, first book in a while. I had written a number of books years before. But my most recent work focuses on how the state of Kansas in particular has really, accomplished more than, some might expect of Kansas. Kansas is often a kind of a whipping horse in political conversations about what states do around education or taxation and the funding of public services. And I have a new book out, School Finance and Educational Equity, Lessons from Kansas, that talks about how that state has managed a better kind of political balance than many others between their state board of ed, their legislature, and their high court to achieve more equitable and adequate funding than one might expect. And I certainly plan to continue working to, inform school finance policy across states and help states do better. And I'm hoping that we've started to really turn the corner in a number of states and realizing that it's time to reinvest, realizing that it's important to reinvest if we want to have a thriving future, be it for individual kids or for our society and democracy as a whole.